In the morning sun where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line. Alright. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you, just for you. In the morning sun where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can. Hi everyone, and welcome back to our live Q&A. We're doing it on a different day today, but normally we do it on a Monday. But obviously we had the public holiday yesterday. I hope everyone had a wonderful long weekend, got up to some fun, and just had a great time. So we will be going back to our normal schedule of Monday from next week, but thank you all for joining us today. So what you want to do is comment below any questions you have relating to your garden, relating to plants, anything that you're struggling with, anything you want to learn more about. All you have to do is comment it, and then I'm going to ask it to Chris, who is going to then answer it. So super simple, super easy. Do you want to tell them about some of the exciting deals we have going on right now, Chris, just while we wait for comments to start loading?
Yeah, look, what it is, winter is, a lot of people, like what our sale is this week, it's called the Good Reason Sale. And what it is that it can be a bit cold and a bit nasty getting out in the garden this time of year. And what we felt is we had to give people a good reason to get out there. And so the good reason that we're doing is, for instance, we've got standard iceberg roses for $16.99. We've got English box for $2. We've got standard ficus, 3-foot standard ficus, a nice little green ball on a stick tree. We've got them for $24.99. And then if you were to come in and spend over $100, we chuck in, you can buy a $100 advanced weaving jewel. It's a great price, bare rooted, $100, either pink or white. You get it for $50, so you can get it for half price. So I had some customers come in yesterday and they paid for one weaving cherry at $100, and got their second one for $50. So $150, they got 2 advanced weaving cherries, which is what you could easily pay for an advanced weaving cherry at another nursery. So really, 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 really good reasons to get out and get in the garden in this cold time of year.
Great. And do you want to tell them about some of the deals for our garden design clients?
Okay, so what we're like now is a really great time to get in and get your garden design done, because we've got fabulous specials, but added to those fabulous specials, like I said about the iceberg rose and things like that, there's mountains of fabulous specials at the moment. But what we're doing is we're doing a $200 feature tree for free when you spend over $1,000 on the day that you get your garden design. So you come in, you get your garden design. When you spend over $300, you got free delivery. If you spend $500 on a 45-minute one, over $500, you get your garden design for free. You get your $100 back, you pay for your garden design, you get that back, so you get a free garden design. And when you spend over $1,000, you get a $200, and I mean, if you're doing your whole front garden, it's easy to spend $1,000 or $1,200. But what we do then is we give you a whole, a beautiful thing, and it's a choice of 4 different trees. And it's either a Natchez great myrtle, a couple of metres tall, a blackwood maple, a couple of metres tall, or a blackwood maple, or a white or a pink crepe myrtle, a couple of metres tall. All absolutely, you get one of those, your choice. And we gave away lots of garden results this long weekend. We gave away lots of people picked up, did a nice little $1,000, $1,200 design for their front or backyard, and then picked up an additional feature tree for $200 feature tree, picked it up absolutely free. So there's never been a better time to
one is okay with
garden design, because you can get a free tree, free delivery, and a free garden design. And great prices on your plants at the moment, because there's some fabulous specials. If you were to go to our grower direct flash sale, you've got 100 real hot specials direct from the grower, and you can put any one of those 100 plants and make a beautiful garden. You can use any of those 100 plants in your garden design. So you can use plants on sale, pick up a free plant, pick up free delivery, get a free garden design.
Amazing. So some really good deals there. For anyone that's just come in, Q&A that we do every week, normally on a Monday, but today on a Tuesday because of the public holiday. So all you need to do is comment below, and I will ask the question to Chris, who will then answer it. So this is a really good space for you to have any and all problems solved in the garden. Maybe there's a tree that's dying, maybe you're about to start a Japanese style garden and you don't know what plants to pick, anything at all. You can ask it here, and Chris is going to answer it. We run it for about 45 minutes. Hopefully the audio should be fixed now. If everyone could please just give me a thumbs up, or just let me know that you can hear us okay, so we can make sure that we are being heard and can answer any questions.
So can you hear me okay? Hello, hello.
Just a thumbs up. Okay, great. Looks like it's still working. First question is, what could be eating Diachondra repens?
There's a little slug. I'm not sure exactly what it is, and I use it's quite easy to get rid of. We've got it here, Congard. I use Congard, and just a very tiny bit of Congard. Spray it with that, and you'll clean it up, and you'll probably get rid of it for the next 6 months. and it looks sort of like a brown, like a slug has been sucking the surface off the leaf, and it's only really one bug, and a bit of Con-Guard will clean that right up.
Great. Next question is, how can I maximize space on a small balcony for gardening?
I think most people, where I do quite a few garden designs on small balconies, and what the mistake that most people make is they buy lots and lots of pots, and when you get a lot of pots, it starts to look like clutter, and you've got no space nowhere. And what I do is I tend to, on a small balcony, I'll tend to use only 1 or 2 very big pots, and I'll put a big plant in that sort of makes me feel a bit enclosed, and then I'll put small plants around it. Now, the sort of thing you can do is you could make it useful. Like, you need to think what the conditions are there, and our staff could always help you with something like that. But say, for instance, like a nice big lemon tree could be real handy to have on your balcony, and then around that you can plant some herbs, and you can plant some of the herbs that you like to use, and then you can even plant, there's some herbs that have nice colourful foliage and that, so you could put some nice herbs around that, or you could put, you know, a nice Japanese maple with some mosses and grasses around the base. But basically 1 or 2 big pots with multiple plants in them takes up less space and makes more impact and gives you that sort of wonderful garden feel in a small space. So basically, and then think about your lifestyle. Like, think about, are you going to be, you know, you're going to go off and leave it for a long time? Like, I was doing a garden design recently for somebody who was going to go off for 3 or 4 weeks at a time overseas and things like that, and had no one to water it. And we used a mixture of jade plants and succulents around it, so that the jade plants could go weeks and weeks without watering. Give them a good, and what I said, if you're going away, give them a real good soak before you go, and a real good soak when you get back, and you'll be right. So jade with assorted succulents would be a really good, tough thing that you could afford to leave for a few weeks at a time.
Amazing. Next question is, if I live in ACT, can I make an order from you guys?
What's that?
If I live in ACT, can I make an order from you guys?
Yes, you can. And what works well is if there's just 1 or 2 little things that you want, we can post them up to you without costing you a fortune. And if you want to do a whole garden, we can pack a whole garden onto a pallet. You can even get a garden design done. We've done garden designs for people using Zoom, and then made the garden design, packed it all up on a pallet, wrapped it up with plastic, and sent it to their door in Canberra. But what doesn't work well is if you just wanted a few plants that are too big to post and not enough to fill a pallet, you'll find that freight into Canberra becomes too expensive. But the overall pricing of a larger order with freight can work out quite well when you get like a garden lot seems to work, or little bits and pieces in the post seem to work, but in between we don't, it's not very viable.
Great. Next question is, best plant to plant in a shady area as a grass replacement due to the grass dying due to shade?
Okay. Say the spot was very, very shady on one side and a little bit sunny on the other side, I'd be using a Dichondra repens, because that'll take sun and it'll take shade. But if it was 100% shade, I would look at something like a baby's tears. And baby's tears great at 100% shade. So 100% shade, baby's tears, sun, and it's deep shade and a little bit of sun, I'd go Dichondra repens, which is kind of it's sometimes called kidney weed because there's a little kidney-shaped leaf on it, but either of them could be very pretty. But full shade, the baby's tears, which is very fine and green and does really, really well. The other one you could use, where you had a bit of a mixture of sun and shade or deep shade, would be native violet. So native violet's another good one. It has little tiny white and blue flowers all year round. So native violet, Dichondra repens, and baby's tears.
Amazing. Just to follow up on the question from before for the ACT question, what's the minimum order I can make?
Really, you can order anything, but it's probably best to talk to our staff, and they can help you work out. If you go, they can tell you what will fit in the post, and they can tell you what you can get onto a pallet lot. But onto a pallet lot, you can often get like 150 or 200 plants, which could be a whole front garden, or if it was a smallish garden, it could be a front and backyard. And our staff can work with you and help you work out the order and work out the freight.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of staff standing by to take phone calls right now.
Next question is, how much do I need to spend to get free delivery?
Within our delivery zone, $300 gets you free delivery, and gets you free delivery all the way out to Traralgon, all the way out to Bendigo, Ballarat, and down to Geelong and the Surf Coast, and all the places in between, right through Gippsland, Carrambarra, Leongatha, sort of right through, not right out to as far as, we charge a bit once you go out to Bensdale or Lakes Entrance, but so you've got most of the highly populated parts of Victoria will include a free delivery when you spend over $300.
Great. Next question is, what are some great atrium plants to use?
Okay, so what's really super duper in fashion is your tractor seed, your spider grass. Your spider grass has those green and white striped leaves. Your liriope, your mondo. Now with liriopes you've got different sorts. You've got your stripy white liriope, then you've got your mondo, and you've got your green liriopes, you've got your black mondos. Then any of your ivies, like a Pittsburgh ivy, is really pretty and cute, and they're very good in an atrium. So there's some things. So mondos and liriopes. Aralias are really good in an atrium too. They have great big leaves on them, and what's really popular at the moment is there's one called a spiderweb Aralia, which has a sort of like a white spiderweb over the green leaf.
Yeah, amazing. Next question is Buxus blight. So many people refuse to believe it's here.
Look, I haven't seen it. I've heard people talking about it and saying it was here, but I haven't seen it, and I think that people have problems with Buxus, and what I've seen sucking insects get into it. Little sort of black scales can get into your box and kill it off, but more often than not, the problems that people have is wet feet. Like often people plant box on the edge of a concrete driveway or something like that, and water runs off and drowns it, and then Buxus doesn't wilt or sort of show you when it's dry. So often what Buxus will do, it'll get very, very stressed, and then it'll die. And so so often people with wet feet, with sucking insects in their box, or with dryness in their box, or very, very poor soils, like really, really bad soil, will get box dying back or looking crook, and then they'll tend to blame it on the box blight. But I've yet to see box blight in Australia. And what is it? I went to a property where they thought they had box blight, and I had a top expert FaceTiming with me. He's actually Australia's leading grower of box, and and there were sort of problems everywhere, but he identified some of the problems as wet feet and some of them as the dogs urinating on the box, and kind of like there was whole dead sections, then there was dead patches on the side, and it looked pretty terrible, but basically it boiled down to wet feet and urine, dog urine on it. So I think I'm dealing with hundreds and hundreds of customers every day, and lots of them have problems with box, but basically summing them up: wet feet, too dry, sucking insects, and things like urine, dog urine on them can create dead patches on them.
Craig says root rot is a bug problem also, but blight is for sure here. Marrowby Gardens were smashed with it. They lost 30% of their garden due to blight.
Really? I haven't heard of it. I really, and I've heard people say that they've got blight and had
big problem. Sorry, not bug problem. Yeah.
What's that?
It was big problem, not bug problem.
What problem?
Root rot is a big problem also.
Yeah, root rot. But root rot is generally caused by poor drainage. Poor drainage, poor soil, lack of aeration. Like I've seen lots of people fail with English box, and then correct the problems. But often what I'll do is I think that say if people have got very heavy soil, I'll tend to replace dead English box with box leaf privet. And I had a chap come to me once, and he'd planted 600 English box a year earlier, and most of them had died. And he came to me and he wanted to buy hundreds of English box off me as replacements for his dead ones. And he was in Shepparton, and there it tends to be very dry a lot of the time, but when it's wet, it's very wet. And wet feet can be a problem there, and also the heat, and when you've got wet feet and it all goes together, you get and he had a disaster. Even though he had a landscaper plant his garden, he had a disaster, and I suggested that he replace it with green rocket, and so I said pull out the last of the English box that hasn't died, chuck it all away, and replace it all with green rocket. And he did. He replaced it with 600 green rockets. And that was 8 or 9 years ago, and he's been back 4 or 5 times to extend his hedge and had no losses. And I've actually been to his place and seen the hedge, and it's absolutely fabulous. So when you are having troubles with English box, and it can happen due to wet feet, particular soil conditions, people can have trouble with it. When you have trouble with it, there's things like box leaf privet, tom thumb, and green rocket, which are much hardier to some of the things that could bowl over an English box, and you can use those things to use those as substitutes and turn what is a disaster into a success. And I've heard lots of people talk about box blight, but I've yet to actually see any of the box blight in Australia.
Interesting. Next question is, screening plants to cover a tall fence. The plants will get no west sun and limited root space.
And tall. That sounds like a job for a sweet viburnum. Sweet viburnums grow quite quickly. They'll grow in the shade. They'll stay thick and green and bushy in the shade. And there's different forms of sweet viburnums. Like there's Awabuki, which has an occasional red leaf on it in the winter. But just your plain basic sweet viburnum, fast. Trim it up nice and narrow, with adequate water and fertiliser, will grow in quite a small root space, and that would probably be your best shot for that situation.
Amazing. Next question is, I'm in Longreach, Queensland, and wanting to know what sort of flowers I could plant now in the cold.
How far north is Longreach?
Let me have a Google. Or if you want to comment as well and just let us know. I don't know how 1,177 kilometres northwest of Brisbane. If you can see there on the map.
It's well inland. Do you know, one of your best things out there would be your bougainvillea.
Central West Queensland.
Yeah. So you'd find that in that situation there, bougainvillea would be very, very successful. Jacarandas would be able to take you cold in the winter. So bougainvillea, jacaranda, and bougainvilleas, what's interesting, they come in all different colours, and I reckon you could grow beautiful bougainvillea out there. And they'll take the cold, and they'll take the dry, and they'll take the heat, and they'll take the wet. And the same with jacarandas would also be very, very good out there.
Amazing. Next question is, I have a Dischidia oantha. I'm not sure if I said that right. How do I best look after it, and does it need a big pot for it to grow? Let me just see if I can look up what its common name is. It is that. Can you see it?
Yep, I can see it. Now I would say that needs a kind of like a morning sun, afternoon shade, basically it'll grow well in the shade, or morning sun and a bit of shade in the afternoon, and not be overwatered. So I think indoors or outdoor sheltered, or indoor in a nice light spot. Don't overwater it and you'll be fine.
Amazing. Let me just see what the next question is. Did you also answer, does it need a big pot for it to grow? I don't think you answered that part.
No, actually, they seem to grow quite well in quite a small pot. They seem to grow quite large in a small pot, and you'd want to give it, a little bit of Osmocote occasionally, or a little bit of liquid fertilizer occasionally. But they seem to enjoy a smallish pot relative to their size.
Great. Next question is, what are the best vegetables or herbs to grow in containers?
What are the best? What's that? The best vegetables for who to grow?
Herbs or vegetables to grow in containers.
Look, you can grow a lot of things in containers. And I guess it's your greens, it's your spinach, it's your rocket. Rocket's fabulous because rocket just grows, and rocket, where it has a bit of a short life in the summer, if you plant it now, it has a really, really long life. You just pick off any flowers or seeds. But rocket is very healthy and tasty and useful. And what's good is you can keep plucking off the same plant for ages. But rocket, spinach, tomatoes are really good. Capsicums, chilies, really a lot. There's a lot of things that you can grow in a reasonable sized pot.
Great. Next one.
And use a good potting mix and plenty of fertilizer and plenty of water.
Yeah. Next one is, I'm thinking of planting rhododendrons along my side. It only gets 2 hours a day of sun.
Yeah, rhododendrons grow they're sort of a jungle, a cool climate, a cool rainforest jungle type plant that really do well in the shade. And I've got a couple of big rhododendrons, and I've got them all in the shade, and they do beautifully. So no worries with rhododendrons in the shade. But the main thing with rhododendrons is that they need the right soil. They like a nice loose. They're like a nice loose sort of, like where they grow best is like in a rainforest kind of a loam. But you could duplicate that by getting fine crushed pine bark and mixing that through the soil so that you've got nice loose soil there.
Amazing. Next one is, how do I choose the right tree or shrub for a small garden?
I guess you'd have to think about how I would choose something like that is I would look at maybe the background there, like the house or what's in the background and what would go with what was in the background. And I'd look at any little plants there, or I'd think about what plants I was going to have around it. And so, for instance, if I, like a lovely small plant that tends to stay small and it's easy to manage would be a weeping Japanese maple. And you can get beautiful little weeping Japanese maples with different coloured foliage. And say you're putting in a red weeping maple, what's going to look nice is stuff with a bit of silver or a bit of gold in it.
Excuse me.
Something that's going to contrast with the red or the burgundy of the weeping maple.
Fantastic.
And I just think of another. Yeah. So, or another thing like. Something I've been using a fair bit lately is a lollipop birch. It's a beautiful little round green ball, white trunk, lovely soft looking plant, and with something like that you might go for sort of like nice cool cottagey plants, sort of things that are blue and white and pink and nice low cottage plants around it, and you could look that up. But one thing you could do is you could come in and you could get yourself a garden design. And like in a small garden, you'd only need our 20-minute design. You put down $50, and if you spend over $250, you get that back. If you spend over $300, you've got a free delivery. So that's the way a lot of people this weekend were solving those sort of small garden type problems. And so there's and not only that, if you come in here, you'll find we've got lots of really small trees, interesting trees. Like we've even got a miniature ginkgo tree here. That's the one that has the beautiful golden foliage in autumn, and it's a lovely, lovely tree. And we've got miniature ginkgos here, so we've got lots of lovely small trees that could be features in a little garden.
Fantastic. Next question is, are there any fast-growing shrubs that are low maintenance?
Yeah, actually, one of my favourites, and I did a garden design for somebody, and they came back for another. They bought another property and they came back for another garden design, and I put Dodonia Mr. Green Sheen in my design right around the backyard of their previous property. And they said it was the biggest hit ever. They said it just shot up in no time. Look, it's a beautiful, like it's a really hardy plant that you can grow anywhere, pretty much. And it's sort of green and dense and really, really pretty. And they put it right around the edge of their garden, right around the edge of their backyard. And they said it absolutely made the property. And so Dodonia Mr. Greensheen, very, very fast growing, very attractive, easy to look after, beautiful dense green foliage. It's a hardy native. It'll take frost, heat, drought, poor soils and look fantastic and green and lush and beautiful. So Dodonia Mr. Greensheen.
Great. Next question is, how do I avoid overwatering indoor plants in winter?
Right, okay. What people do wrong is that they either water too much or they water too little. In winter, what I'd be inclined to do is I'd be inclined to let them dry right out, and depending on the plant, you could let it dry out in the winter time when it's cold for 2 or 3 weeks, and then after 2 or 3 weeks really soak it. Like I'm kind of inclined to absolutely drown them when I do it, because what a lot of people do is that they don't water very often, and then they don't water very much when they don't water very often, and then you can end up with a moisture deficiency and having actual plants die, like they just give it a little cupful every 3 weeks or something like that. So I think really have a long time between watering, and then have a long period between watering, then give them a good soak, put them in the laundry trough, flood them with water, let them drip dry, and then put them back out for another 3 weeks or so. And also, when you're not watering very often like that, you could always put a little bit of liquid fertilizer into the water, just a little bit, a tiny bit, and that can help them sort of food-wise. So it's good to give them a bit of tucker whilst you're giving them a drink so infrequently, and just a tiny bit of liquid fertilizer will do it.
Great. Next question is, can I grow tomatoes or strawberries indoors?
No, both of those require nice hot sun. You possibly could, if you had a really, really sunny window, you could certainly get them going early in that sunny window, and you could give them a go. You might, if it was really, because people grow them in glass houses, so if you had a really hot sunny window, you might just get away with it, but it'd have to be a north-facing window with sun all day. But really, with your strawberry and with your tomato, you could certainly get them going early in the season indoors, but they're going to do best out in the hot sun.
Great. Next question is, I have a large frangipani tree that's leaning over due to wind. When is the best time to cut the branches to straighten the tree?
Straight after it flowers is really the best time. That's before, straight after they flower, that's when you get your growth. So I'd be inclined to leave it alone for now. And what'll happen is that it'll flower beautifully, and then you chop it back, and then it has its growing season.
Amazing. Next question is, what's the best way to clean indoor plant leaves?
Just a bit of paper towel, and a moist paper towel and put your hand underneath to support it, and run a paper towel over the foliage and collect all your dust and that. I had a few here that were a bit dusty and terrible, and I put them out in that heavy rain that we had, and they looked fabulous. So, and I remember when I was a kid, my mum, there'd be a terrible thunderstorm, and she'd say, "Quick, gather up all the indoor plants." We'd gather them all up and go out in the thunder and lightning and put them out on the patio and let them get washed clean in the storm.
Smart, yeah, smart idea. Next question is, can I divide English lavender? No. But English lavender is very easy to grow from cuttings, and now would be the time to take cuttings, and if you were to put them in a sort of a shady, sheltered position, keep them moist in nice potting mix, and put them nice and deeply in that. You cut a sort of a 6-inch cutting and put it 3 inches in the ground. I reckon you'd get yourself 4 out of 5 to strike. Great. Next question is, how do I know when herbs are ready to harvest?
Taste them. taste them and make sure that you've got the flavour and the herb there. And also, what you would do is you'd wait till you had a decent volume so that the amount that you needed to take didn't completely deplete the plant from its ability to photosynthesize. So wait till it gets to a reasonable size and then taste and make sure it's got its flavour and everything there, and you're in business.
Amazing. Next question is, how do I protect young trees from wind or frost damage?
Okay, really young trees, wind and frost, a plastic tree guard works. You can put in 3 wooden stakes or 2 bamboo stakes and 1 wooden stake or something like that, and you can put a plastic sleeve on it, and then for the frost you could always put a sort of like a bit of shade cloth or something over the top of it to try and keep the frost off it. So you could protect it with some stakes, a plastic sleeve for the wind, and then maybe a shade cloth top over the top to keep the frost off.
Amazing. Next question is, how do I attract butterflies and bees to my flower garden?
Buy yourself a couple of buddleias. Look, I think lavender brings around birds and bees, but nothing. If you smell buddleias, most buddleias have a fragrance on the flowers that smells a little bit like sort of spicy cinnamon and honey mixed together. Really lovely, sort of a heavenly smell, I find it. And I found that nothing brings the little honey eaters and the butterflies to your garden like a buddleia. But in winter you can find that some of your natives are very good. Some of your winter flowering natives, like some of your grevilleas that flower in the winter, and some of your banksias like your honeypot or your birthday candle banksia could be a great source of bringing birds into the garden in the winter time. And there's some really pretty, my favourite is there's a Winter Delight, which is a really lovely grevillea. It has a beautiful sort of dusty pink flower. It started flowering a few weeks ago, and it's just going to flower and flower and flower and flower flat out till springtime. And so does your your birthday candle and your honeypot flowers all through sort of autumn, winter and into spring. And they bring the birds.
Amazing. Next one is, my Irish moss keeps dying. How do I stop this?
I would wonder that there's something wrong. I've noticed that the golden Irish moss is a little bit hardier than the green Irish moss, but it's really only been, I have lots of them growing, and I've really only had problems with them when I haven't watered them adequately. So I don't know whether you've got it in a garden or in a garden bed, but make sure you're watering it well. Loves a bit of Osmocote, so plenty of water and a little bit of Osmocote, and really it should be thriving.
Great. Next question is, how do I prepare my garden for winter?
Interesting question. Look, with all your evergreen plants, I reckon now, well, say with English box and lawns and things like that, things that need a bit of lime, now's a great time to put on dolomite lime. With plants that don't need lime, now's a great time to put on a bit of, with your evergreen plants, things like your daphnes and your azaleas and all those sorts of plants that could all benefit from a good dose of Osmocote now. And your lime lovers, you give them a good dose of lime. A lot of your roses and things like that could really use a good dose of lime now. And then in another month, put the Osmocote on them so that you've got them fattened up for spring, basically. And we've had a really good dose of rain the last couple of weeks. Now, if you've got trees that are dry deep down, like you could dig a hole in your garden, and you might still find that if you go down 2 foot, there's only dust down there. So it's a funny thing. We've had all this rain, and it's a funny thing, but I would actually consider doing a bit of watering on trees that are dry down deep. And you can do that with, you put out a soaking hose or something like that, and put the water in very, very slowly and let it get down nice and deep, because to get water in deep a month or 2 ago when it was absolutely bone dry would have taken a lot of water and been very, very difficult. But if you add a little bit of water to this rain that we've just had, you can get the moisture in really, really deep on deeply rooted fruit trees and things like that. So you could look. So basically, water fertilizer. Now, a lot of people go mad trimming things, particularly evergreen things. I wouldn't be trimming them this time of year. I'd be waiting till it was almost spring and be trimming lots when it's almost spring. You get a lot of your, and even roses, like roses, a lot of people get in and trim the roses hard now. I'd be more likely to trim my roses in sort of early to mid-August. Because I think when you trim them hard early, you stimulate them into new growth early, and then they sort of are plagued by the cold. So hold back on pruning, deep watering, fertilizing, lime, all things that you can do right now.
Yeah. Next question is it necessary to sanitize pots before reusing them?
No, I don't think so. I think that unless you were doing something that was very, very sensitive, like a leucodendron or a protea or something like that, or possibly even rhododendrons, I really wouldn't bother. I've not found that bugs or germs seem to carry much with the pots or seem to affect from one plant to the next. But if you did want to sanitize them, try a bit of hot water. Hot water would be a very simple, quick sanitation. Hot water and a bit of a scrub would be a simple, quick sanitation. And and into that, if you're really worried, like say you're doing leucodendrons or something like that, you might throw a bit of white king into the hot water, and you'd certainly have them sanitized and ready to go.
Yeah. Next question is, how often should I fertilize potted plants versus garden beds?
That's a good question. In summertime, when you tend to, like your garden, you might only give it a soak every 4 or 5 days, whereas in summertime you might give that pot plant, you might give it a good drink every day. So it's getting a massive amount of water. So in summer, you could fertilize every 6 weeks or so, and in particular plants, a lot of plants that need a bit of calcium, like a lot of your foliage plants and box and things like that need a bit of calcium, they could really benefit from a bit of like dolomite lime or something like that, because they're being water. But this time of year, because you're not watering so much, a bit of rain around, but you'd probably Osmocote or something like that every 3 months or something would be fine. And then in summer it could be every 6 weeks. And you might also look. One of the things that lime is very water soluble. So in summer when you water, what you're going to run out of is lime. So if it's a lime lover, you'd put a bit of dolomite lime on it occasionally.
Right.
And you don't put dolomite lime on the same time as Osmocote, because the nitrogen and the calcium tend to go into conflict with each other.
And on that same kind of wave, what are signs of over-fertilizing a plant?
Death. Death is a sign of over-fertilizing. I often have somebody comes in and they say, look, I've had this lemon tree for years and it just died like that. And I say, if you put on that citrus food, and they say, yeah. And the citrus food is I would never put a normal powdery white citrus food onto my citrus. That's a fertilizer that was designed for the packager to make a lot of money. Basically, I would tend to use a coated fertilizer like an Osmocote or a Nutricote, and that way, even if you put too much on, because it releases slowly, it won't do any damage. And some of your uncoated fertilizers, like particularly it seems to happen with citrus, people put on a big dose of the uncoated fertilizer, and the warm conditions and lots of water, it all occurs at once, and suddenly there's too much fertilizer there, and too much fertilizer normally looks like death. I've seen it a few times where people have over-fertilized, or they've bought soil that's really, really rich in chicken manure, and generally it'll be leaf drop. It'll be leaf drop that occurs. Sometimes it might be like a black ring around the outside of the leaf. But burns on the leaf drop, and death are all what you normally see with over-fertilizing. And over-fertilizing is normally caused by, sometimes they make the soil that they deliver out to your house, they make it really rich in chicken manure, and it burns the roots, or people put on an uncoated fertilizer, and the conditions are such that it all releases at once, and suddenly there's too much salt and too much of everything around the roots, and the plant is badly damaged or dies.
Yep, that's not great when that happens. Next question is, what are some fruits I can grow indoors?
Fruits indoors, gee. I've never seen anybody grow a fruit indoors. You might, if you had a nice sunny window, you might just get away with a lemon. I reckon you might just do a lemon. But generally speaking, fruits require vast amounts of sun, the energy to produce it and everything like that, vast amounts of sun to produce their fruit, and they do best outdoors, and you've got your pollination occurring outdoors. So I would tend to think keep your fruit trees outdoors.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to our last question for today's live. If we didn't get to your question, or you have a question come up today or in the next couple days, be sure to join our live next week, Monday 12 p.m, whatever platform you're on right now. We do it weekly on Monday. We're just doing it today on the Tuesday because of the long weekend. But normally it's every Monday, 12 p.m. But you are more than welcome to call us up, come in store, email us if you aren't able to make that time or don't want to wait till then. So our last question is, what's the best poolside native feature plant that reaches about 2 to 3 meters and doesn't drop leaves or flowers?
Okay. Your lime light. You grafted limelight. You can buy a standard grafted limelight, and it's sterile. It doesn't flower. It's evergreen. It would be the cleanest, neatest, lowest maintenance tree in the world. And basically what you have is you can buy short ones and tall ones. The tall ones that we sell have about a 1.5 meter stem with a nice bushy head that'll come up another 70 or 80 centimeters, so get up a bit over 2 meters tall. It'll get a meter or more wide, have beautiful cascading shiny green foliage, but it doesn't, it will drop the odd leaf, but it doesn't really drop leaves. It doesn't have any flowers or seeds or anything like that, so really, really clean and never too big. So that's an acacia limelight standard. You could Google and look at them. They're beautiful, unusual Australian native.
Amazing. All right, well, that is us for today. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next Monday, same time, same platform.
Okay, thanks a lot. See you later.